No. First of all, let me give you background. When Uganda Airlines was initially established in 2019, I wrote an article called Uganda's Next Biggest Disaster. And I predicted that the Uganda Airlines will end up in tears. And I concluded by saying, I pray that my predictions are wrong, because it's not good for this country that, we fail. Let me frame it this way. One, let's remove politics and all other things and create an ideal situation. Ideally, a country like Uganda needs to have an airline. One, we are landlocked. Or for that matter, we are land connected, but we are far away from the sea, 1,500 kilometers from the sea. And if you are a strategist for Uganda's economy, you would say it is unlikely that the heavy-duty manufacturing can give you a competitive advantage, because you will have high transport costs to the cost. But if you look at an area like services, like tourism, as an important driver of your economy, you need connectivity. And for Uganda's connectivity is because I do not know whether Ugandans know that our country is so lucky that we are located at the center of the world, and therefore at the center of air travel. My grandson, the pilot here, will tell you that. First, we're on the equator. So from the South Pole to the North Pole, we are right in the middle. But if you look at where Uganda is, if you move to the Far East, the distance from the Far East, from Entebbe to the Far East, choose a destination Japan, or to the Far West, you choose Santiago in Chile. It's equal distance. So whether I'm moving from Australia to Entebbe and another one moving from Oslo to Entebbe, it's almost the same distance. And somebody moving from Japan or from Santiago or from Brazil, we are at the center. And as you approach Entebbe, the airport's built on a lake. The pilot here will explain. You don't have obstacles to landing. So Entebbe and Uganda are geographically located. And if you want to drive tourism, improve connectivity, and build a serious airline, we have a geographic advantage. More than that, remember that in the airline business, you make money largely through transit passengers rather than point-to-point passengers. Am I correct? So at the very minimum, you need 60% of your passengers to be connecting passengers. So you look at Emirates, or Ethiopian Airways, they bring passengers from all over the world to one hub and then distribute them to the rest of the world. So again, Entebbe is the most convenient place. So if you ask me, in ideal conditions, Uganda should have an airline, first for our own connectivity, but also because we are strategically located to become the most important hub for air transport in the whole world. Geographically, we stand at the best advantage. Now, the airline, Emirates Airlines, is the most profitable airline in the world. It's owned by the government of Dubai. Do you know the CEO of Emirates? It is Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai, the vice president of the United Arab Emirates, and also the prime minister. He's the CEO, actually. He runs the airline. So it's like President Museveni being the CEO of Uganda Airlines. That's how strategically important Emirates is to the economy of Dubai. Now, the problem that I see is that states, the point I'd like to make is that states are not generic. States vary in terms of their internal institutional capabilities, what you would call institutional endowments. They also vary in terms of their politics and how these states relate to the societies around them. When you come to, so you can say Ethiopia has run a very successful airline because they have hired professionals and the government has kept politics out of it. Emirates has done the same thing. You may wish to know that the British Airways was at its best when it was owned by the government of the United Kingdom. So governments can run businesses and can run them very well. But in the specific context of the government of Uganda and its politics, I would not advise them to own an airline. Why? And in that article of 2019, I gave conditions in which Uganda can run an independent airline. Me, I don't give theoretical answers, I give practical ones. So if Uganda was to be serious about an airline, and as the minister, my great-grandson, Chris said, it needs to enjoy a high degree of independence from two things. One, from Uganda's democratic politics. You see, if you are going to listen to the voice of every disgruntled citizen on the street, you cannot manage a business. So you need to insulate a business like that from popular pressures. It is not true that because the vast majority of people feel and believe something, then it is correct. That is stage number one. The second, you need to insulate the airline from what I normally call political buccaneering. People, this one wants a tender, this one wants to supply, this one wants to do this. They will come and converge on the management of the airline and put them under pressure. That management may respond to these pressures by allocating contracts and tenders and jobs based on political pressure in order for them to protect themselves from being fired. I don't know whether it's possible. So if Ugandans run an airline and they were to believe that they are serious, unless Museveni says, Mhozi Kainerugaba is the CEO. Now, if Mhozi is there, who will come and say, try to push him to do anything? So there the airline is, and unless he is incapable of running it, at least we know that no one can push him. Or maybe you get Edwin Karujiri, or Drake Rwabogo, or Natasha Karujiri. I personally believe that those people who are his family members, who can easily reach him. Everybody else, I can tell you, they will kick you around and you'll be out. So that is one. The other solution to manage it effectively is to hire white people. And I'm very keen on this. I said it in the last show. Because I can tell you, if you went to the Emirates, the guy, the president of Emirates has retired. The old man. What was his name?
Wake.
No. The president, you know, the CEO is the rule of Dubai, but the president of the airline was a white man from Britain. The managing director would say yes. He recently retired. He's been there since its creation in 1985 or something, or 1995. But you need to get white people who are highly experienced and above board. You bring them on top dollar and say the top management positions are given to them, 4 positions on the board. Ugandan, you know our cultural attitudes. No Ugandan is going to go to a white man and say, hire my wife, hire my daughter, give me a contract, those things. They will be kicked away. So if they can, and they do not need to know too much of our local politics. Please remember that New Vision became the most successful government-run newspaper or media company in the whole of Africa. Why? The founding managing director, William Peck, was white. No, very few Ugandans will go there to ask him for these favors. Because they don't live in the same cultural context as him. You're not to bulldoze him around. Short of that, I don't see what Uganda can do to create an airline that is insulated. Now, let me give Museveni credit. You look at our oil sector. Museveni did 3 things that made Uganda have a very good policy environment for oil and very well negotiated production sharing agreements. I do not know whether you guys follow the Ugandan oil sector. It leads to a lot of corruption. Museveni did 3 things. First, he ensured in the initial, what they call exploration phase, the creation or the cultivation of a highly competent technical team at the Ministry of Energy, led by Fred Kalisa Kabagambe, with Ernest Rubondo. There was this man, Kateshumbwa. No. He wrote a book. Okay, but there is Kasande and others. They were highly technically competent. That is point number 1. Second, that Museveni did, he gave them protection. There is nobody in Uganda that I know who could go and make statements that influence the oil sector. No. Now, the third thing, and I think it's a consequence of the first 2, because they were directly answerable to him, he listened to them. It did not matter whether they were Janet Museveni or Salim Saleh or Andrew Mwenda or Chris Baryomunsi. You could never go and have a say. He listened to the technical experts on oil. Shut his ears to everybody else. And because he gave them that degree of autonomy to work professionally, they developed a high level of self-confidence to pursue, to negotiate these oil production sharing agreements competently. And as a consequence of these first 2, they were incorruptible. You may wish to know that in the international oil market, the average share of government to international oil companies' revenue is always, they say, 40 in favor of the government, 60 in favor of oil companies. In Uganda, it is 78% in favor of the government. We negotiated the best production sharing agreements in the world or in Africa precisely because of that. So if you want to get Uganda Airlines to work, it would require Museveni to consider it the most important strategic asset Uganda has. He puts a team there, they may be Ugandans, but he would need to insulate them to ensure that nobody can go there and push anything. Now, the problem with Uganda is you're put as MD, then somebody goes and gets a rumor, takes to the president. ISO takes a report. The media make the, and then you begin listening to parliamentarians grandstanding and making noise. People on social media also speaking. You listen to too much contradictory information, and you end up making bad decisions, and the people internally fear. Now, the final part. The mistake Museveni made with Uganda Airlines, initially, Uganda Airlines started well, was to hire a lady called Jennifer Bamturaki. I have never met her. In which case, I may be unfair to her because it's important for me to meet her and listen to her side of the story. But I am intrigued as a person involved in political commentary that practically every employee of that airline calls me, contacts me. I think when pilots, workers, managers, everybody complains about her. I do not know how that can be possible because there are so many organizations. There is NSSF, there is the National Water Storage Corporation. What are the other organizations in Uganda run by the government of Uganda? Pearl Bank, Pride Microfinance, now it's going to become a bank. Uganda government has actually, you have Housing Finance Company Limited. Uganda government owns businesses that are run professionally and at top board. National Water Storage Corporation of Uganda, do you know it? Has been winning best water utility in Africa for the last 15 years, every 12 years or 13 years. They have been winning every year. Not only that, they are being consulted by Switzerland, by Canada, by other developed countries are consulting national water here. It is under Museveni. Look at national NSSF. 10 years ago, NSSF total assets was 5 trillion. By end of last year, it was 25 trillion. They have grown 500% in just a period of 10 years. Where do you see that? We're a small economy in East Africa. We have the largest pension fund in the region. And one of the best in Africa, if not the best. I think we are number 2. I have seen some rankings. You look at the Post Bank, which now is Pearl Bank. The government never even capitalized it. But they were able to build competence and run a very successful government-run enterprise.
Okay.
Or Housing Finance Bank. So it's possible for government of Uganda, my grandson, to run a successful airline. But for them to run it, it would require that the managers there who are hired are competent and it's protected. Jennifer Bamturaki was the worst choice, and I know how she went there. Later you can ask me, I tell you. She has been CEO for 4 years. She has had 5 CFOs, chief financial officers, 5. 2 of them acting, 3 substantive. Of those 3, each one of them has come and said, let me establish accounts of the company. She has fired everyone who has tried to establish accounts by saying, these are our expenditures, these are our incomes, let me streamline the accounts. You can never work there. There was a pilot, a man worked with this one, called Kisoro. Wasn't he? Didn't you work together in East African Airways?
He was my first office.
Exactly. He is well experienced. There was a man they picked from Qatar Airways called Robert Wakweya. From Qatar Airways, he was a senior pilot there. He was the head of pilots here. He resigned. Kisoro resigned from the board. There was a man, we got him from Rwanda called Magenda. He's the most experienced man in flight operations. She fired that one. There was a man called Paul Turia something. He was CFO. He came and streamlined the finances of that. She fired him or caused his maneuver to have him fired. I mean, so all of a sudden, everybody who is competent to run that airline properly, actually to help her be successful, was fired. And then even those who are there, she doesn't listen to them. As a consequence, you have only 2 large body planes. You establish 5, London, Dubai, Abuja, Lagos, and Mumbai. So you have 4 routes. Dubai 5 times a week, London 4 times a week, Mumbai 3 times a week, Lagos and Abuja 2 times a week. Those are turnaround time is 235 hours in a week on 2 planes. If one fails, and people advised her, don't do it. For you are saying that the revenue went up. That's why we are here where we are. Yes, she was trying to show politicking. The top line revenue is going up, lying to the president. But it's going up at a very huge risk. Remember that Trust is like virginity. Once lost, you can never regain it.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Captain Jack.
So people lost trust in the airline. Now you have passengers running away from you, your customers, because you made these ambitious, stupid plans. You were saying my revenue is growing. At what cost was that revenue growing, my grandson? It was growing at the cost of you creating chaos, whereby the airline is unable to serve its customers, creates anger and despondence, and people lose faith in it.
Thank you.